Welcome, guys, to Creative Cliche. The cliche man is cliche, but whatever it is, cliche. Now, today I'm really excited. We are hosting one of Africa's most sought after speakers, and just to get him was a miracle because he's someone that a lot of us admire, a lot of young people actually look up to. His name is Mzamo Masito. Now, I'll do a brief intro about Mzamo because I'm sure he can do a better introduction of himself. But Mzamo, basically, he's Google Africa's chief marketing officer. He's a father of three. He does not drink alcohol, that is. And also, fun fact, he does not own a TV like me, but mine is for other reasons. He believes in the supremacy of the mobile phone. He's a practitioner and an academic. He teaches at some university there in SA. Now he crunches data for a living. As you know, Google deals mostly with data and marketing. He's now what I got from when I was doing my research on him is that he challenges the youth to use creativity and arts as tools for social change. And that's why we are having him today here on Zero Tills TV. So feel free to engage him, feel free to ask your questions, feel free to be free with him because these are once in a lifetime opportunity where we have Mzamo Masito, Chief Marketing Officer, Google Africa. Mzamo, I don't know how they say welcome in South Africa.
They say Sawubona.
Sabona.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sabona Mulema.
So Sabona.
Thank you.
In Kenya we say Karibu.
Karibu san.
So just give us a brief intro about yourself. I like the art behind you. It's really revolutionary. Tell us something about yourself.
I was born in the slums of Cape Town, similar to Kibera. And that's where I grew up. My mom was a domestic worker from age 15, 16. She was a product of early teenage pregnancy. My father disappeared when I was less than a year old. He took a holiday on parenting. And I was raised by my mom's sisters, and I grew up I left the township and I went to a village, and I grew up in a village where I learned to herd cows and goats. I do not like goats. I love cows, and I love dogs a lot, and cows. Goats are not easy to herd. Sheep are easy, but goats, I hate them. They gave me a tough time growing up. And I don't eat meat, so maybe that's another reason. So I don't really think much about red meat because I don't eat meat, and I don't eat chicken, I don't eat pork. And I have 3 daughters. And what else? I was born under apartheid. So all my life, I knew up till age 20, 21 that whites were in power, and whites told us we are inferior, and they told us that the color black equals inferior and the color white equals superior, which is a lie, which I know it's a lie now. And was growing up, I believed it, and it took me a while to not believe it, which now I don't because I know it's a lie. So then I went to UCT, I went to the US, studied in the US, came back, went to UCT, studied at UCT, and then I went and I worked for Unilever, and then I worked for Unilever India, I worked in the UK, then I joined Vodafone, I worked in London, again I stayed in London, and I came back, I didn't like it, and then I worked for Nike, I was CMO for Nike, looking after World Cup 2010, I love football and I love running. And I run marathons, ultra marathons. I run, even though Kenyans might be good at running, I'm probably better than 90% of the Kenyans in running, except for Kipchoge, the 10%. Except Kipchoge. Everyone else I think I can run with. and I run 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. Kenyans run 42 kilometers. They don't run 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. So I run races on 100 kilometers, 150. So those are long races, 3-day races. I like them a lot. And so I love running and I love sport, any sport. That's why I joined Nike. And so and then now I'm with Google. So I've been with Google now for close to 3 years. I look after Google Africa as Google CMO. And if I'm not working, I'm looking after my kids, or I'm trying. But my kids are old now, so they look after me.
Interesting. It's good to know that you run, but I think you've exaggerated the 200 kilometers.
It's true.
But who knows? It's true.
You must check it out. In South Africa, there's races that are longer than 100 kilometers. And you run them over 2 days or 3 days.
Yes.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, Masito, maybe just the first question I'll ask that someone posed to me while we are setting this up is that at 33, you are one of the youngest people to join Unilever's board at that moment, during that time. And yeah. So I'm sure, because right now, if you check the way employment is that there are not a lot of young people in leadership positions. But you at 33, you're already a VP and part of the board of Unilever. How was that journey for you, and what were the insights that led you maybe to securing such a position at such a young age?
I was lucky enough that at a young age, like my first 2 years of work, I met 2 people who I would consider coach, mentor, and sponsor. And these 3 things are not the same. So I was lucky to have a coach. A coach is someone who speaks with you. A mentor is someone who speaks to you. And a sponsor is someone who speaks about you and for you and fights for you in the meetings that you are not invited in.
Yes.
So I had these 3 things in one person, actually in 2 people. So the thing that they did well for me, they asked me if I have a life plan and if I have a plan for my life and whether I was deliberate, intentional, and proactive about a plan so that God and the universe can conspire with me. But they said to me that God likes it when you're clear where you're going, so that God doesn't have to be trying to figure out your dreams, since God says, I have given you a spirit of power, love, and sound mind. So use your sound mind then. Don't put your mind under a shade or tree. So they taught me that early. And then they said to me, do you have a plan? Then they helped me have a plan. And then they helped me think about how to navigate the career, how to move from, because I started as a statistician at Unilever and I was a data analyst. Then I moved into consumer insights. Then I headed up consumer insights for Africa. But then they said to me, now you need to move into marketing to broaden your horizons, because in career you need depth and breadth. Most people tend to think about depth only. And actually, you also need breadth. If you want to be in general management, if you want to be a specialist, then you need a lot of depth and not much breadth. Whereas for me, I wanted to be in general management. So then they gave me advice that I need breadth and depth. So I had already done some depth with insights, analytics, consumer behavior, behavioral science. Then they said I must move into brand management so that I can then learn about general marketing, general management. And that at Unilever, if you wanted to make it to the board, you must have been a brand manager, marketing director to make it to the board as a VP of a foods business or home care business or beauty business. So then I followed their advice and I did that. And all along they were helping me open doors speak for me, speak about me, fight for me. And then they will sometimes talk to me and reprimand me because I was very outspoken and I was very naughty sometimes and I would do wrong things, but they were there all the time. And then sometimes they would speak with me as a coach, a friend, advice, and we will share notes. So all of that helped me a lot, but I would not have been moved up and become an executive board member at Unilever without the coach, mentor, and sponsor.
It's interesting you've said that. Maybe something that has come. You've said that we need breadth and depth, which is really insightful. However, do you think you also need some bit of aggression? Because you've said that your mentors and coaches used to maybe correct you. Do you think we need that aggression, or do you think we are lacking in that aggression as young people nowadays?
I'm not sure I'm going to use the word aggression, but I'll use the word faith or leap of faith or courage. I'll use those two words, that we need courage and we need faith. The challenge sometimes I have with youth, even when I'm in Kenya, and some people know that I do go to Kenya a lot, or Nigeria or Congo, everywhere I am in the continent. Sometimes I find youth who are very religious. They love God, they go to church, but they forget that God says faith without action is empty. And so they are faithful without works. And the challenge I have is that they don't do a lot so that they can make lots of mistakes. And that takes courage to be able to be willing. Like, for example, for me, I jumped from something that I was good at, behavioral science, analytics, statistical analysis, to marketing. I didn't know whether I was going to be successful or not. It doesn't matter. I feel like sometimes people at your age or youth, you want a guarantee up front that it's going to work out. And you want a guarantee that you're going to win. That's not how you're going to live a successful life at the end, because you're going to lose anyway. You're going to lose more than you're going to win. But most people will not remember your losses. How many people here who watch football or basketball remember how many penalties Lionel Messi or Ronaldo has missed? But we all remember how many trophies he's won. How many people remember LeBron James, how many three-point shots he missed? But we all remember the rings that he has. But he's missed more finals. He was in more finals, but he only has 3 rings. But you see but no one remembers the part that he had to lose more to gain something. And that everyone wants the guarantee of a win, but they don't want the losses that come with the wins. So you have to I'm not sure you have to be aggressive, but I think you have to be courageous, and you have to then put faith into action and stop religion and just be God. But stop making God religion and do nothing and then pray too much. Probably God is tired now. People like to pray a lot but do very little. And your prayer is in what you do. It's not what you say, it's what you do. So if I was young again, I would do more. I would do lots of stuff. I would do lots of hustles. I'll be excited by failure as much as I'm excited by winning, because it is in failure that you get better. You do better. So for me, it will be courage and faith in action, not faith in prayer only.
Okay. I hear you, Masito. But check the example of nowadays, that the job market has changed a lot. People are losing a lot of their jobs, especially now during this pandemic. There are not a lot of opportunities that maybe young people can rise up to get. How do you then identify which is the opportunity and which is I understand the part that you're saying that, yes, take an action, be courageous, pray about it, but praying isn't doing. But how then do you identify something that is a good opportunity so that you just don't end up wasting a lot of time in doing something that is not working?
You see, again, your question is about again, you are asking a question because you want certainty. There is no certainty in life. I don't know the things that I did, whether they were going to be successful or not. I don't know the things I did, whether we're wasting my time or not. When you date someone or you go in a relationship, do you first look at that person and say, what are the guarantees? I want guarantees. What I want to make sure we don't break up. How do you know you're not going to break up with that person? How do you know that you're going to be with that person forever? How do you know that person is not going to cheat on you? How do you know that your friend is not going to lie about you? How do you know that your friend's not going to double cross you? The challenge I'm having with your question is that it suggests that there is certainty. There is none. We are all faking it until we make it. We are all trying several things and fumbling into making it. But for you to want some guarantees I don't think it's practically possible. You can have maybe a few tips, like, is this thing aligned to my values? Does this thing compromise my values? Is this thing aligned to my mission? That at least you can ask. But whether asking the question, is this a guaranteed thing for sure that it's going to work or not? You don't know. Only probably God knows whether it's going to work or not. The only thing you have is to try it. I mean, what more? I mean, I have a friend, for example, a close friend of mine, who started as a security guard. Did he know that he will end up being a chief financial officer of a company? He started as a security guard. Was there a guarantee that he will be a CFO one day? No, but he was willing to take a job that was less than what he believed he was worth in terms of talent, in terms of brains, but he needed the money. He needed the hustle. Then he started that job as a security guard. He started studying again. He qualified as a CA, chartered accountant. Then he, in that same company he was a security guard in, he became an accountant. But was there a guarantee in the beginning that's how it was going to work out? No. But he started somewhere. And now look where he ended. So I can't say to you that there is a for sure way of guaranteeing you success. I'll be lying to you. I just know that the best way is to try and try as much as you can and give it your best. If you lose, so be it. I mean, that's life. And then if you win, that's nice. And if you lose, you take the learnings and you try again.
Okay. Interesting. So we have one question from Nisi, attributing this performance to mentorship and sponsorship. How do you define the relationship? How do you balance to be a better mentee?
So the way I see it is that when I look at a mentor or a coach and a sponsor, I am not appealing to sympathy. I am appealing to interest. So, and I'm also appealing to alignment of values and mission. So I look at a mentor or coach and a sponsor, and I try and work out what are the things that they are interested in, and how can I be useful and helpful to them. And then in that way, how then they can be useful and helpful to me. So the relationship must not be a one-way relationship. It must be a win-win relationship. And they must feel like they get something from having me. For example, one of my mentors came from the Netherlands. His name is Kees Kruithof. When he came to South Africa, he didn't know South Africa. He didn't know the continent. And I traveled the continent a lot. I knew South Africa and its history a lot. So I went and I proposed to him that I can help him. He can shadow me. I can take him to the townships. I can take him to the villages. I can take him to where the consumers shop. I can take him to spaza shops, to informal settlements, everywhere. And now you see I'm appealing to interest because he wanted to know more about South Africa. I can teach him the history of the country. And then in exchange, can he help me navigate Unilever? But you see that there was a win-win. And I was not appealing to sympathy. Africans need to stop appealing to sympathy. We're not slaves anymore, and we're not anyone's slave anymore, and we are not inferior to anyone. So the best thing then is to appeal to interest, and the relationship must be based on interest, and it must be based on how useful and helpful are you to the people who are also helpful and useful to you.
Africans must stop appealing to sympathy. Okay. Now let's do something small about creativity. In your talks at Google, and probably your philosophy about business is that you're very big on creativity in marketing and advertising. What role has creativity played to get you where you have been? What are the creative things that you've done to get you to where you've arrived at your career so far?
Creativity has played a huge role. I mean, I always say to people, you think about it, creativity, I consider God creative, because how do you create heaven and earth? And how do you create a human being that we are now in the animal kingdom if you're not creative? So that's creativity at its best, to even create a human being with a soul. That's amazing imagination and creativity. So I've always thought that since the kingdom of God is inside me and all around me, so I must have that person's ideas and creativity in me and inside me already. So what has helped me, for example, at Unilever, I focused a lot on thinking about insights. I was very much about thinking about why people, they do the things they do. And that requires lots of creativity to marry science and art, to marry statistical analysis, because statistics on its own is dry. But statistics with creative analysis, a statistical application, that requires creativity. Because now I'm thinking about, how do I show why people do the things they do? And how do I get to the root of why they do the things they do, so that I can generate an insight, and that insight can generate an idea, and that idea can generate a solution, and a solution that could turn into revenue and profit and market share. And we did that with many categories at Unilever, from home care to personal care. Then when I moved to Nike, we were thinking about, how do we win the World Cup? We are not the sponsor, the main sponsor of the World Cup, but how do we win it? We had to generate a lot of ideas about winning the World Cup without being a FIFA sponsor. And that took a lot of creativity, thinking about stuff, to a point that we even launched the Nike Football Training Center in Soweto, which was the first of its kind, never been done before, to a point that Nike took it and also used it in Brazil, the idea. So we had a lot of ideas even there. Same when I moved to Vodacom, we've always been thinking about, how do we make technology humane? So we started creating adverts and creative content and storytelling that was about making network humane, because 3G, 4G is just technology. But how do you give it an emotion? How do you give it life? Same thing when I'm at Google, we're again trying to do the same thing, as in, how do we make technology helpful and useful every day? And that, for me, has always required creativity. It has always required that I think about things that are intangible, just as much as I think about things that are tangible. So I need to fall in love with maths and science, but I also need to fall in love with art. So that's why, if you see my background, I'm always hanging out with artists. I'm always hanging out with fine artists. I hang out with graphic designers. I hang out with interior designers. I hang out with architects. I go and hang out with behavioral scientists, programmers. So I hang out with a variety of people, because that's where creativity is. It's in the diversity of what you expose yourself to.
Okay. Thank you. Keep on sending in your questions. We'll make sure to ask Mzamo all about them. Now, Mzamo, before I read the comment that has just come in, sticking on that technological sphere, there's something that a lot of brands are filling in, but I see that maybe Google has been able to create that connection, which is turning from artificial connections to authentic connections. Now, say for instance, there's a lot whenever I'm on YouTube, there's this skip ads that come, and every time it comes, I can't wait to click the skip ad button. You know, how can you advise maybe Google or advertisers who are coming up with those adverts? Because the last person that we had on the show talked about intrusive advertising, which is what YouTube have been doing with that. You're watching something and then all of a sudden, an advert comes. What is your take on that, and how do you advise maybe brands to communicate with that?
So what you should be remembering is that when you go on search or when you go on YouTube, what are you actually trying to do? What are you doing? You are actually telling us about your intentions. That's what you are trying to do. Our job is to then help you with your intentions. I mean, when someone Googles something about, and then you say headache, you are already telling us about your intention. Either is to cure a headache or is to help someone. So our job then is, how do we enable and help that intention? How do we become helpful and useful to that intention? So now what that then requires is that when an advertiser creates a solution for that intention, which is called an advert, they have to be also thinking about you and your state of mind and your emotional state. For example, we know now that the shorter the advert, the better. That in a lot of people that they have a short life memory or lifespan or attention, and they need shorter content. The other thing that we know is that the brand must appear quickly in the ad, not at the end of the ad. And because no one is waiting for your ad to end to see where is this ad from. And so the third thing we know is that great piece of creativity and content accounts for 50 to 80% of the effectiveness of the ad. If the ad is poor and creatively poor, it doesn't matter. People are going to skip it because the ad is poor. But if the creative content is strong, it's rare that people will skip it because people like strong content, well thought, creative content. So you have to invest a lot of time in coming up with content that works. And then make sure you can tell it in as short a time as possible. But also remember this, no one has ever watched a great movie or great piece of content and said, oh, when is this thing going to come to an end? It's rare that you go and watch a film on Netflix or on Showmax or at a cinema. If it's great, or like Black Panther or anything, time flies. And you don't even think that it's 2 hours. But if it's a crap movie or crap piece of content, you are quick to remember that, oh my goodness, when is this thing going to come to an end? The only time, and you can even kill it and delete it or even stop it. But the only time maybe you don't, let's say you are in a date and you're trying to charm someone, and now you are sitting there in this date waiting for this damn boring piece of content to end. So that's the only thing, that the content must be interesting, engaging enough for the user to be willing to not skip it. But that's the role of the creator, and that's the role of the content creator.
Yeah. Now, still on the same topic about creation, there are some ethical values, there are ethical issues that maybe creators also take into account. Same way that I'd posed to you in your role as Google. We end up giving so much of our information to, say, Google. And Google now then converts that information to sell to us things that we like or do not like. Is there an ethical line that maybe Google crosses or doesn't cross? Because when you have you guys could totally know me, you know what I like, where I shop, where I go, you have my information, you even know me more than I know myself. Is there a line that Google maybe says we can't cross this line?
Here's the thing, the Google is guided by a value called respect. So we have one value at Google. We don't have many values. We have a value called respect, and that value guides the things that we do on privacy, security, even privacy and security of the kids, private and security of the family, private and security of your own data as well. So that's the first thing. So we say respect the user, respect the opportunity, and respect each other. So upfront, we start with that value. So, and we know that as Google as well, that if we ever become unethical, we will lose the trust. And trust is one of the most important currencies for a business and for a brand. Because if you lose trust, then you introduce doubt. If you introduce doubt, it weakens the brand equity. And when there's no brand equity, no one's going to use you anyway. Then you lose the relationship that you have with the user. And Google will lose the relationship that they have with you. So already we know that it's unsustainable to be unethical. We know also it's very important that we hold your data and privacy with care. So that's why if you go on most of Google privacy and settings, you actually have the power to decide how long your data should be there. You can even delete it manually yourself. You can even set auto delete of your own content. And you can actually do this now. You can go on privacy, on settings, and you can control how your data is used. And you can even control when it stays on, and you can control when it should be deleted. This is the power we have given back to the user to basically show that it is important that you also feel like you are in control of your own data. But here's another thing, though, you need to remember, is that remember you are using an open platform that you yourself are not paying for. But this platform requires thousands of engineers who need to be paid to program, who need to be paid to update the software. It's going to require memory, backup, all of that. And that is cost. And that's money. And money has to come from somewhere to sustain that business. Or else you won't have search. You won't have YouTube to democratize your talent. Because what YouTube does is to democratize your talent so that you don't have to go and do another thing that you have to submit to a recording company, or you do something that you have to submit to a TV and wait for years to be accepted. Now you can open your own YouTube channel for free. And but now you also have to accept that you can't be having a channel for free without it able to sustain itself. Or else then you can't have a channel that democratizes your talent and that you can even monetize your talent. And the channel even makes money with you and for you. So you see that you must have a win-win relationship. You can't only want you to win, but you don't want someone else to win.
Okay, interesting. Paki Wallflower says she likes the conversation because there's so much life skill information that doesn't necessarily apply to the creative world, especially about appealing to interest and not sympathy. Now, I have a question, someone that sent in today, and they were asking, so Masito does not own a TV, from the information is that you do not own a TV, but you only rely on the mobile phone. Why and how does that work out for you?
Oh, I mean, if you can see back on I replaced my TV screen with the bookshelf.
Yes.
The reason I did that is because I needed to force myself to learn about the mobile phone, to learn about what's possible, what's not possible, to learn what can the mobile phone do that TV can't do. But also I needed to learn, I think most of us forget one thing. The power of the mobile phone or your smart TV, the only difference is screen size. we are just all dealing with screen sizes. And I'm just been wanting to focus on the screen size that you touch and look at more than you look at your girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or wife or husband. And I'm more interested in that screen size. And because that's the screen size you take with you, that's the screen size you see last before you go to sleep, that's the screen size you wake up and look at first. Most people look at it before they even look at their partner, or they look at themselves, or they even say thank you to God for waking up. And I'm interested in that screen size. And the only way for me to learn about that screen size was to remove other screen sizes and to learn about it and to force myself to figure out that, can I watch sport on this phone? Can I watch highlights on this phone? Can I watch movies on this phone? If I can't, where else can I watch it? So that has been a journey for me of like close to 10 years of no TV, which I've learned a lot about. And I'm not saying, by the way, TV is not important. TV has a role because all mediums have their role. I mean, TV plus YouTube works. TV plus radio works. Search plus TV works. A billboard plus TV works. So it's not just mobile phone only, because a mobile phone can also be on your TV. So a mobile phone can be TV as well. So it's just the only thing that I've let go of is not actually TV. What I've let go of is screen size. Because all screen size, you have a phone, you have a phablet, you have a tablet, and then you have a laptop, then you have a desktop screen, then you have a screen, TV screen, but all of those things are just screens. The software that's probably inside is not that vastly different from these screens. And I just choose to learn more about the one that all of you use more than any other device.
But doesn't that mean that you end up spending a lot of time on your mobile phone?
No, it doesn't, because my mobile phone, like for example, Google Pixel, even actually the Apple phone, I have used settings where I have actually sort of set my phone so that I can also manage digital well-being. And I set it up, for example, my WhatsApp has a 1 hour limit. And if the 1 hour ends, my WhatsApp shuts down. Same on my Google Pixel, I put settings on when I want the phone to go on a sleep mode and when I no longer want to be disturbed. That is something within your control. You can't blame the phone only for your addiction. You must also exercise self-control. And you can have self-control, and you can also put settings on your phone to help you manage your digital well-being.
Okay, interesting. Emmanuel Yegon says he agrees with Mzamo 100% concerning the power of the smartphone. Now, Mzamo, in your over 10 years traveling the world, because I'm sure Google pays a lot of money, especially for heading a position of your stature. Do you have a side hustle? Or
I've always recommended to everyone that you must never have one source of income. If you have one source of income, you end up being a slave to someone. And if you have one source of income, you end up not being bold. You end up being risk averse. And creativity actually is the lifting of inhibitions. And creativity comes from you being willing to take risks. And it is very difficult to be creative and broke. So if you want to liberate your creativity, you have to be financially free. You have to be financially independent, and you have to be financially secure. And if you don't have that, then you limit your creativity, because now you are only being creative just to make money to survive now. So I've always encouraged people that, even myself, I have side hustles. I don't just do Google. I have other things I'm doing on the side. I'm looking at other things. I'm looking at investments. I'm looking at property investments. I'm looking at running businesses on the side that have nothing to do with what I'm doing, and it doesn't clash with my core job at Google. But
Yeah.
I will always say this to everyone: you cannot rely on one source of income, because what you need to remember as well is that if I run a business and I employ you, my job is to put the oxygen mask on that business first, not on you. I have to make sure that the business survives. So when I retrench you, nothing personal. It's not lack of love for you.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes.
that I have to make sure that the business survives. Now you have to do the same for yourself. You need to, like, when you travel and you're on an aeroplane, the first thing they tell you is put the mask on you first.
Yes.
They tell you there's going to be a hazard. You need to put the mask on you first. Even when you travel with your kids or your loved one, they don't say put the mask on your kids and then on you. They say, no, put the mask on you. And then when you have the mask and you can breathe, then go help other people.
Yes.
It's the same thing. You need to have multiple oxygen tanks and multiple masks. I can't have Google only as my oxygen tank.
Yeah.
I mean, what if they switch off the oxygen tank? So it's very important that we have multiple oxygen tanks and we have multiple masks that we use. So I am a proponent and someone who encourages people. But you need to remember, though, that if Google employs me to do this job, I have to do this job well. I can't be now dedicating 80% of my effort and time on my side hustles and suck at the job that I'm being paid for. Then it's not fair. I am also not being fair to Google. So I need to be fair to Google, and I need to give 100% to the job that I'm being paid for. And then when I'm done with Google job at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., then I start my hustle. When I'm not working for Google on weekends, I can do my hustle. But I can't be doing my hustle at Google's expense. That is not fair. And that is actually unethical.
Speaking of Google, well, we like what you've said there. It's hard to be creative when you're broke. Speaking of Google, what from your years working as the chief as the chief marketing officer of Google, what has your years working in that position taught you about consumer trends, especially when it comes to the young people? What is it that they're looking for? What is it, and where are we going? Not just as a society, but as an individual. Where is the communication shifting towards to? Where are the opportunities shifting towards to?
So what we're learning, because we study analytics, behavioral science, and by the way, we go out a lot before COVID lockdowns, and we go out a lot to speak to people, to listen to the youth, to have focus group sessions, to do ethnography, one-on-one interviews, to observe, take a taxi with the youth, go to the universities, go to high schools, listen to the youth, and even have youth agencies to come and talk to us. What we're learning is that the youth, number one, are a lot more purpose, mission driven. They're a lot more in need of places that are purpose and mission driven. And so that's something that's very important that brands should also take into consideration. And what that means, youth want brands that are helpful and useful to a greater society, that have an impact, but also youth are not allergic to profit. They are not allergic to revenue. They are not allergic to making money, but they just want to make money in a soulful and heavenly and godly way. They lot more. That's why you find that youth do not trust politicians that much, because they feel like politicians sometimes, some, not all, some are not trustworthy. They are not ethical. So youth are very big now on ethical marketing, ethical brands, purpose-driven brands. So that's the first thing that we're learning. The second thing that we're learning is that youth also are like everyone else. They want to make money now. They want to hustle now. So brands must be useful to them now, not just only tomorrow. So we can't be selling you a future that will look bright without your now being bright. So how do we find the balance between now and tomorrow? So that's the thing that is how to make money now. The other third thing that youth are asking us is help me become successful, or help me with my hustle, help me with my success, whether it be education, whether it be your entrepreneurship hustle, or whether it be your NGO that you've just started, or whether it be you're having issues with mental health, or you're having issues with advising other youth or youth development. Help me. Help me become successful in anything that I want to be successful at. So you see that those are some of the things that we're picking up from the youth trends, which are then important for us when we do search, when we do YouTube, that we are able to educate, entertain, inform the youth on how they can empower themselves, how they can grow their small, medium business, how they can grow entrepreneurship, how they can grow digital skills, how they can be ready for the skills of the future. That's another thing that the youth ask us a lot about is, how do I get ready for jobs of the future, skills of the future? And what are those skills? And we know that at the heart of those skills is technology, is digital. But youth want to know, how do I do digital marketing? How do I know about programming, about coding? How do I know about how to use digital platforms? So those are some of the things now that we pick up from engaging and speaking and listening to youth.
Okay. Thank you for that. Before, remember guys, you can keep on sending in your questions. I see 2 questions, but before I go straight to the questions, Nisi has a question. Nisi, do you want to ask your question?
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Question is on I follow your Instagram a lot of times, Masito, and one of the things you posted at times was sorry, a minute. You'd posted about Kanye vying for presidency and talking about how much women do not apply for posts that they don't qualify for. What do you have to say about that? Is it just women, or is it a young people's issue that if I don't qualify, I won't apply for this job?
According to scientific research, the research that we read is that women self-promote less than men. And that what we're learning from research is that men will apply for a job even if they are 30% ready for it, whereas women will wait until they are 120% ready for the job. There's another study scientifically done where it shows that women were asked to self-evaluate, and women under self-evaluate themselves and their performance, even when they are told that they actually performing the same and equal as another man who has evaluated themselves higher. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done around helping women self-promote, because men overdo it. For example, most men will think that they can become a president. Like now in the United States, whether it be Trump or Kanye West, they don't even think, do I have the qualifications? Do I qualify? What have I done to earn me the right to become a president? They are all confident that they can be a president. It's rare that women do that. And it's sometimes good that actually women don't suffer from overconfidence wrapped in incompetence. Whereas men sometimes suffer from overconfidence wrapped in incompetence. So, but there needs to be a fine balance between confidence and competency. And sometimes what women tend to do, they want to be overly competent before they can take something. And no one must wait. I didn't wait to be in the board of Unilever to be perfect, because no one gets the job because they are perfect. You get the job because you've showed potential. And then from that potential, people have confidence in you. And so there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in helping women not undervalue themselves, not self-promote less. For example, you can go on Google now and search #I'm remarkable. And it's a program that is designed for women and to help women self-promote. And this is something very important that we need to do, so that, because empowered women, we know that from also economic science that women have a higher economic multiplier than men. When you empower a woman, you empower a village. Because most of the time, if the truth be told, when you empower a guy, it's not always empowering a village. And that's, I'm very sorry to the guys in this platform, but the truth is women tend to have a more higher economic multiplier than men. So it's actually very important that we make sure that we raise women who are willing to self-promote, who are willing to evaluate themselves accordingly, not under self-evaluate themselves, even though they have the competencies and the skills. It's also important that women take jobs and not wait to be 120% perfect. It's okay even if you are 60% ready.
Yes. Well, confidence wrapped in incompetence. Well, Shiko Njuguna says, this is a insightful conversation. While working with a team, how far should you push a creative idea that you believe in that other team members do not see as an idea that can work?
That one is difficult because there's no perfect science, because it's all subjectivity, it's intuition, it's gut feel. And with me also, my luck is that because I've been doing this for over 24 years, I've got enough institutional knowledge, I've done so many pieces of content. It's become a muscle that I now have practiced, exercised. So I kind of know, I can feel it when something's going to work and something's not going to work. And also, by the way, I've been wrong as well. And also sometimes my junior team members, I've allowed them and empowered them to go with the idea that they believe in deep down, I don't believe in, but I let them do it because I also want them to learn. And then I'm surprised that it works. And I realized that creativity is magic. There's a lot of magic in it. So you can't bottle magic and say that I now know I've got a formula, I've got a recipe. It's not as perfect as that. So it requires sometimes that you just have a leap of faith and you just do it on faith. And no musician, very few musicians, I've spoken to a lot of artists and musicians, very few of them knew that the song they've created is going to be a hit. They don't know it always at that time they are doing it. And sometimes they're even surprised that the song that they least expected became the famous and popular song. So you see that creativity has a lot of magic and heaven and godliness in it. Just, I can't say to you that there is a perfect way, but I do know that you have to trust your intuition. You have to trust your gut. You have to back yourself. And you have to stop being apologetic and try to please everyone. Creativity dislike pleasers, because then you're going to dumb down the creative, because you're trying to be nice to everyone. You're trying to be accommodating to everyone. That's not the role of creativity. The role of creativity is to push human being and human nature forward, is to make us think differently, is to make us do differently. Sometimes it will irritate us. Sometimes it will rub us the wrong way. Sometimes it will make us smile. Sometimes it will make us cry. But that's the thing that it has to do. But if you're a person who likes to be apologetic, I will ask you to not join the creative world, because then you're going to give us boring stuff.
Noted. Now, on the women leadership gap, I think women have a burden. This is Joanne Risper. Women have a burden to acknowledge their worth, but also men need to hold their fellow women and be aware of their male privilege. Mzamo, do you think there's male privilege, especially working at Google?
Yes, she is right that there is male privilege. There's also toxic masculinity. There's also toxic patriarchy. That she's right, that men, the thing is we must all realize, like for example, I'm a black man in South Africa. As a black man, I am oppressed. But also as a black man, I am oppressive to women and children. There are men who rape children. There are black men who abuse women. There are men who call women derogatory names or who look down on women, even at work. So it is important that men acknowledge that they have unearned privileges. As a man, I do have unearned privileges. Therefore, my job as a man is to ask myself, how can I be a positive ally to women? How can I become part of the solution to women? How do I become less of an asshole? How do I become more useful and helpful to women? How do I not sexually objectify women? Because sometimes men do this a lot. You look at a woman because she's pretty and you reduce her into just beauty. Whereas God has given her brains, God has given her talent. These are the mistakes that men make, that men need to work hard on. We need to change. We need to stop becoming part of the problem. For example, some of us grew up with fathers who were abusive to our mothers. And then we do the same. Instead of, we are born into families to break curses, to break cycles. We have an opportunity as men to do better than our fathers, to do better than our uncles. So we have an opportunity. God has given us an opportunity to break the cycle, to break the cycle of toxic masculinity, to break the cycle of toxic patriarchy, to become positive allies to women and help, and also lift women up and help, but also realize that men are not superior to women. God didn't say to Adam, you are superior to Eve. Show me anything in the scripture, whether it be in the Quran or in the Bible or in the Torah, that said that when God created men and women, he said to the men, you are superior. We men are the ones who write that part. We're the ones who make that interpretation. But there's nothing in the scripture that suggests that, because God even says to a man, love your woman as Christ, like Christ. You see, no, yes. God doesn't say beat your woman, subjugate your woman, oppress your woman, look down on your woman, rape your woman. There's nothing in the scripture that says that. We are actually given a responsibility that is even equal to Christ, and we're not even living up to it.
Wow. I'm feeling fired up. I don't think we should end this interview. Now, keep on asking your questions, but remember, we are almost coming to a close. Mzamo, I have one question that maybe from your life experience, what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned for this over 24 years that you've been in marketing and in the job sphere? What is the biggest lesson that you've learned that keeps pushing you on?
For me, never sell your soul for money.
Yeah.
And the second thing for me is being authentically you is an amazing gift to yourself. If you can stay authentically you and not try to be someone else, because God didn't bring you to this earth to be Allah, didn't bring you to this earth to be someone else. If you can just be authentically you, you will stand out. If you are true to you, you will stand out. But the biggest lesson I learned then is that you cannot be authentically you if you are not self-aware. You're gonna have to do the work in being self-aware. You're gonna have to do lots of work in learning, who am I? Why am I here? Why do I exist? What's my purpose in life? What are my values? What makes me who I am? What am I not willing to do? What am I willing to do? What am I not willing to compromise? Those are the things that you should be asking, and do the work. So that if you can do the work on self-awareness, you will find authenticity, because then you will operate from self-awareness. And if you are authentic, you will not sell your soul for cheap things, because your soul is worth more than the shillings, Kenyan shillings you're gonna get tomorrow, and they're gonna end anyway. Your soul is worth more than the dollar and the euro that you're gonna get, and then it's gonna end. And then you have a soul that you've compromised, and now you have to go in the underworld with your soul, and it's gonna be hard to come out of that underworld. When your soul is in the underworld, it's not easy to move out of the underworld. You stay in the underworld longer. So the key thing for
Yes.
me is authenticity, which comes from self-awareness that allows you not to sell your soul for money.
Yes. Shiko says this conversation is so good. I feel like I just went to church. Amen, my sister. Now, Mzamo, how you've been working for 24 years. How do
Yes.
you keep pushing the envelope? How do you keep on saying tomorrow I'll do better, tomorrow I'll achieve this? Because as creatives, even as marketers, sometimes we get bored and say this is the best I can do, it's time to leave. How do you keep on pushing yourself to achieve more? And
For
what's
me,
next for you?
I am chasing an ideal that I do not know whether I will reach it or not.
Yes.
But that's what keeps me. It's like I'm chasing, one of my tagline is heaven on earth. So I'm chasing heaven on earth. And now to chase heaven on earth, I don't know. I want to get close to heaven, heavenly experiences on earth. I don't want to wait for thy kingdom to come. I want to do my internship here on earth so that if there is a heaven or kingdom, I don't want to get there and then I'm an intern. I then have to learn again. No, I want to get there and I want to be the supervisor for everyone else who's new. So that means I'm chasing a goal that I might not achieve in my lifetime. But that's the goal that keeps me going, because every time I have a heavenly experience on earth, I'm crying, I'm laughing, I feel warm, I feel like God has graced me. I have so much grace. And so I keep chasing a goal. I think the best way to keep your dreams alive is to chase something that is bigger than you. Chase something that you don't even know if you will ever achieve it. If you will die having, like for example, Steve Biko, which is my hero, he was chasing Black consciousness. And when he was chasing Black consciousness, it's an idea that was bigger than him. When Thomas Sankara was the president, he was chasing Pan-Africanism, which is greater than him. Even when he died, the idea will not die. So you must chase ideas that are greater than you. Ideas that even when you die, the idea won't die. The idea will live on. It will find another soul to make it happen or to move it forward. So that's what keeps me going. It's just chasing this heaven on earth and chasing ideas that are greater than me, that frighten me, that I don't even know I'm going to achieve them.
Yes. Well, as we come to the close of this conversation, I want to thank everyone for joining. If you have one final burning question, please send it now before Masito gives us his final remarks. If you have one burning question, I do have one burning question, which will tie into the last question. Masito, what are those words that someone said to you that changed your life?
The word was, God does not listen to the words that come out of your mouth. It is the blanket of faith and action that you wrap those words with that God truly feels and understands. These words, I remember all the time, that God is moved by faith and action, but not just faith, but action. That you are what you do. You are not what you say. And this to me always stays with me, that you are consistently what you do more than what you say. So God and your ancestors are moved by what you do. Far more, for example, if you want a job and you sit under a tree and you're like, oh, I need a job. Yes, God is also looking at you and saying, yeah, you are broke and you do need a job. You're unemployed. But God is going to find a job for you. But as soon as you stand up and you go write that CV, what are you doing? You are putting faith into action. And then as soon as you go out distributing that CV, what are you doing? You are putting faith into action. And then the universe has no choice but to conspire with you. God
Yes.
sent out many saints and many angels to help you out, because God is moved by faith and action, that you rap those words you like to talk, because talk is cheap. In Ireland, when I used to go to Ireland, they would say talk is cheap, money buys the whiskey. And people like to talk a lot, but they do very little. So for me, remember, God does not listen to the words that come out of your mouth or tongue, because God put them there. It is the blanket of faith and action that you wrap those words with, that God truly feels and understands.
Yes. Wow, I feel like I'm going to church. I don't think I'll go to church on Sunday, lest this message gets diluted. Diego, do you have something to say before we close? Because I'm sure I'll continue asking Masito questions. Do you have something to say, Diego Nonisi, before we close?
Oh, well, this is interesting. I don't really know what to say specifically, but I'm going to just process what Masito has said. Thank you so much, Masito. I think you have just been so real with us, and especially us young people, that we have to be intentional about what we do, and not just professing the things that we want, but going out there to actually do them, put in the work, do the action, so that we are not just sitting and saying we want to achieve this, but we are not going the mile to get it done. So thank you so much. And I think, Ashoya, one thing that you might have skipped, Nisi had asked, because she's gotten off the call, she had asked if we can still book you, Masito, for another session another time, probably, because there's just so much that I am sure we can learn from you that we haven't been able to cover in this 1 hour and 7 minutes.
Super, no problem. When I have time, I'll definitely make time, because there are things that I wish I had known when I was 18 or 21 that I always want to pass on to others, so that you make less mistakes and you can shorten your desires and you get to your dreams faster than me.
Okay.
Perfect. And I think one final thing, Masito. You see, what we do as young people sometimes, and probably the reason why we might end up losing direction from the things that we really want to achieve, is, I think, what you alluded to at the beginning of this conversation. Having mentors and people who hold your hand through. And probably you just, like, finally, or maybe Ashoya has something else to ask you, but from my end, speak to the importance of having these people in your circles, maybe in the line of work that you do. So, for instance, if I am a journalist, for instance, and I have someone who holds my hand and directs me and tells me, even when you are trying these things, this is the way to go. Try doing it this way. What is the importance of having such people as you grow in your career?
I like your question a lot, because you must remember, no one goes up alone. I'm going to use the scripture a lot, because I love scriptures and I love the Torah, the Quran, the Bible. Think about Jesus Christ. The story of Jesus Christ is a story that everyone thinks about Jesus, but they forget that Jesus needed John the Baptist to help him bring about what he needed to do here on earth. He needed someone too. He needed Mary. He needed a mother to be pregnant and have him for 9 months, and then breastfed him, takes care of him, and raise him. And the same thing, people forget that Jesus needed disciples. He was surrounded by disciples who helped him. He had Mary. There's a lot of talk in the Bible where people don't talk about the role of women in helping Jesus Christ. Mary is probably the number one disciple of Jesus Christ, not Peter. But people don't like to talk about women, because men like to protect privilege and their Bible privileges. So now the key thing is, if you look at the life of Jesus Christ, a lot of you want to walk with Jesus, or want to walk like Jesus, or want to walk with Allah, want to walk with the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be thy name. These people that we want to walk with had other people who helped them achieve their goals. No one goes up alone. Moses had Jethro. Moses had Jethro to teach him about how to survive the desert before he even went to release the Israelites. So imagine if you think you can do it on your own when Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, blessed be thy name, when Moses, when David, Solomon, you name all these people, had people as well to do it with them. You have to surround yourself with people to help you grow.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. That is brilliant, Masito. Thank you for responding to that. Ashoy?
Moses had Jethro, Jesus had John the Baptist, and us we have Masito. As we close, Masito, we want your final remarks, and then we have a challenge for you. Give us your final remarks. Oh, before, Sheryl says that it's really hard to ask Masito a question because he says it as you think, even before you ask it. Okay. So give us your final remark as we close the session, and then we'll give you a challenge that we've been doing for all our guests. So ready when you are.
My final remark is that may you experience heaven on earth, and may you genuinely have the kingdom of God that is inside you come out, and may you use it while you're here on earth, and may you know that God is tangible and that God exists and that it is possible to have heavenly experiences on earth. So I wish that for all of you, that may you have a heaven on earth experience while you're here, so that your body, your soul may miss your body. You don't want your soul to look at your body when you're dead and say, this was an underutilized, this body was useless. It didn't use my soul to its fullest. You want your soul when you die to look at your body and cry because it's going to miss your body because you had such a heavenly ride with your soul in this flesh. So I just wish all of you a heavenly experience on earth.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you everyone for coming for the session, for asking Masito questions, for being an active audience, and for trying your best to learn something out of this session. Now, before we leave, there's something we always do with our guests. And Masito, today, there's a song that is big in Kenya right now by Master KG. It's called Jerusalem. I'm sure you know it.
Yes, I saw it trending. But I don't know this thing. It trending.
Don't worry. It's a dope song. Here we are dancing to it all day, all night. Now, what is the challenge? We want you to just for 15 seconds, because you've been standing for 1 hour, 16 minutes, just to stretch your muscles. Give us a dance move. You're a young man. And Diego, you ready with the song?
It's the only thing I am not good at.
It's okay. We are not dancing. There's something, even if it's shaking your head, something small.
Oh, what am I supposed to do?
You're supposed to dance to Dogo, just with your 2 left feet.
Oh, is that the song?
Yes.
No, the only thing I can do is just disappear and let you. I'm bad.
Thank you, everyone. Masito ni Mzito. Mzito means a heavy person in Kenya. So Masito ni Mzito. So yes, you're a big man.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for honoring our session. We sure hope to have you next time. We'll communicate with you, and thank you so much for this session. It was interesting. It was a learning experience, and I'm sure everybody has learned something. What I'm taking today is you cannot be creative if you're broke. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.